just as a quick recap of what we've already learned in this unit, remember the Clayton Act legalized collective bargaining and eventually created a system in which professional athletes could bargain with their team owners for better pay, better treatment, these sorts of things. And remember, we also identified both mandatory and permissive subjects for negotiation. We're going to focus primarily on mandatory subjects for the purpose of our negotiations, but we're also going to talk a little bit about labor unions, particularly in professional sports, and some of the unique aspects of that. And then we'll look at some of the specific mandatory subjects that you're going to be negotiating over. All right, so again, we understand collective bargaining to be these negotiations that occur between employers and a group of employees where the primary goal is to reach some kind of agreement over working conditions related to those subjects that we've discussed. But I want you to think about collective bargaining in the context of professional sports and how it could be unique from some other fields. So I kind of like to compare this to a more traditional pathway. So let's think about the career of a professional athlete versus, let's say, the career of a teacher, a K through 12 teacher. These are both groups that could engage in collective bargaining through their own respective unions, but there's a lot of differences or unique aspects of sport that sort of changes the level of importance, and I think even adds to the importance of collective bargaining for athletes. So one of those unique factors is the short-term careers, right? When we think about a K through 12 teacher, that's a person who's likely going to have 35-year career, right? So a long career with a pretty clear-cut plan for what that's going to look like for them in terms of retirement. Obviously, for professional athletes, this is not the case, right? Especially for certain sports like football, where you're talking about a very short career span based on health and age. So this means that collective bargaining is even more important or crucial for those athletes, right? They may only be around playing in the league for one cycle of bargaining. So that means it's even more important that they actively participate in those negotiations because it could really impact their careers, and that career window is just much shorter. Also, another unique factor is this concept of job security, right? Again, if we think about a K through 12 teacher, it's a relatively high level of job security in that field, right? As long as you kind of do your job and are performing at a high level, you're probably going to keep that job for a long time. We know in sport that's not necessarily the case, right? There's little job security. Depending on the sport, you may not even have a guaranteed contract. You could be fired tomorrow and not know it. So the job security piece is also, I think, an important thing to note as we think about collective bargaining. And again, the importance of building in protections for yourself as an athlete because you may not have many opportunities to bargain or have a seat at the table. Another unique aspect of professional sports and collective bargaining is this kind of wide disparity between player talent and interests. So, again, think of a K through 12 teacher. Probably you have some really high achieving teachers, right, that get Teacher of the Year awards. Certainly those that stand out from the pack, but generally speaking, if you're a teacher in K through 12, you're doing a good job. You're following the job requirements, right? So everyone's sort of on the same page in terms of talent and ability and education. Obviously, that's very different in sport, right? You have this huge disparity between the star players and the common players, sort of the working player. So that means they have different interests, right, when it comes to sitting down and bargaining over the different topics for negotiation. And that could create some conflict in the room. And it also means that now you have sort of a separation between the group of players that you would hope would be on the same side, right? But they do have different interests based on where they are in terms of star player or common player and how much they're making. The same is true of owners, right? So there's also a disparity between owners based on the market in which they exist. So you have the big market owners who likely enjoy a lot of financial windfall because of having a high level market audience of people to come buy tickets, corporate partnerships, all of those things certainly benefit a big market owner, where a small market owner may struggle a little bit in terms of competing because they don't have access to that same population or corporate, sort of survey of corporations that might be interested in providing them income. So there's a lot of disparity there in terms of both players and owner interest as well, which I think creates a really unique conversation in these CBAs. And you'll see that firsthand when you get into your groups. So each group has different stakes in the bargaining process, and different issues are going to matter to them more than others and less than others. So as we look at different issues that you're going to be negotiating over as you prepare, I really want you to think about how each group might approach the negotiation process based on their position.